Tesla has enjoyed the electric vehicle market for quite some time now, but there's a slew of new electric vehicles on the way, with the latest one being this new Hyundai Ioniq5. So is this one good enough to take on Tesla and other EVs? Let's go for a drive and find out. The Hyundai Ioniq5 is available with either a single motor rear-wheel drive or dual motor all-wheel drive powertrain and a standard range or long-range battery pack. This particular demo vehicle is the full double espresso. It has the dual motor all-wheel drive and the extended range battery pack. So it'll produce 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. That's good enough for a 0 to 100 km/h time of 5.1 seconds according to Hyundai. Or to put it into another way, it's as fast to 0 to 100 km/h as the Nissan 370Z sports car. And of course, being electric, all of that power and torque is instant. Oh, it feels really fast. Of course, the Ioniq5s with the single motor and standard battery pack or single motor and extended range battery pack don't have quite as much power and torque. The rear-wheel drive standard range Ioniq5 produces 168 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, while the long-range rear-wheel drive version produces 225 horsepower but the same amount of torque at 258 pound-feet. One thing that has me scratching my head though is the fact that if you want the all-wheel drive dual motor here in Canada, you have to opt for the topmost trim level, which is quite a bit more expensive than the base trim. If you're watching this video in the United States, you have the option to get any trim level of the Ioniq5 you want in either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive format. It will cost you $3,500 to $3,900 depending on the trim, but at least you have that option. If you decide to take the Hyundai Ioniq5 around some twists and turns, it's not really that sporty of an electric vehicle. In my opinion, I think that the Ford Mach-E is still a bit more sporty out of all of these more affordable EVs. This Ioniq5, it does feel stable because of the batteries. It's just that when you're midway through a corner and you hit a particularly big bump, it really unsettles the car. The suspension is not adaptive, it's not air suspension, it's just regular standard suspension. But every time you hit a bump midway through corners, the whole car just wobbles about and it feels a little bit more unsettling. The standard range rear-wheel drive Ioniq5 can drive for up to 354 kilometers. The long-range rear-wheel drive version can go for up to 488 kilometers, while this dual motor long range can go for up to 414 kilometers. The ranges of course depend on your driving style, climate control use, ambient temperatures, and so on. As well, the Ioniq5 can be equipped with a heat pump. This is a more efficient way of heating or cooling the cabin that doesn't impact the battery range quite as much as an electric heater. In Canada, only the base essential trim does not have a heat pump. In the United States, only Ioniq5s that are equipped with a dual motor all-wheel drive receive heat pumps. The standard battery is 58 kilowatt hours, while the long-range battery is 77.4 kilowatt hours. These batteries allow for either 400 or 800 volt charging. From a 250 kilowatt DC fast charger, the bigger battery will recharge from 10% to 80% in just 18 minutes. From a 150 kilowatt DC charger, that same charging range is done in 25 minutes, while a 10.9 kilowatt level 2 charger will take up to 6 hours from 10% to 100%. These are all estimated times from Hyundai. One thing to note, when you plug the car in to charge, a very robotic voice tells you that the charging started.
Charging started.
Thankfully, it can be turned off. And speaking of putting energy back into the battery, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 actually has 4 different regen braking modes. So it has the usual level 0 to 3, with 0 being pretty much no regen braking. And it also has one pedal drive mode, which Hyundai calls I-pedal. Then if you pull on the left steering wheel mounted paddle and hold onto it, then you get maximum regen braking. And if you continue to hold onto it, it will actually bring the car to a complete stop. It's kind of like Chevy's regen on demand pedal that's in the Volt and the Bolt. And finally, the last regen braking mode is auto regen braking. It will detect the car ahead of you, as well as the distance and the speed that you're traveling at, and it'll adjust the regen braking mode depending on those parameters, the distance of the vehicle ahead and your driving speed. So if the car ahead is closer to you, then it'll provide more regen braking, but if it's further away or there is no car ahead of you, then it gives you very little regen braking. The system does work, it works really well, it's just that it's not consistent. I can see what it's doing and how much regen braking it's providing me, but it's never consistent. So personally, I prefer to just leave it in level 2 or level 3 or use the one pedal drive mode. Starting with the ride comfort, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is actually really comfortable. Like I said earlier, it's not a very athletic driving electric vehicle, but because the suspension is a little bit more on the softer side, it means that it absorbs bumps much more easily and does a better job of it. So if your commute takes you over really poorly maintained city streets, the Ioniq 5 will still provide you a comfortable ride and you'll arrive at work or at home still feeling relaxed. Inside the Hyundai Ioniq 5, you will find a ton of space. I'm 6'4", and as you can see, legroom is not an issue, headroom not an issue whatsoever. I can even move the seat further back. Oh, and speaking of this particular seat, when you're parked, you can actually press a button right here on the side and the seat will recline. Of course, it only works when you are in park. If the car is in drive or reverse, then the buttons on the side get locked out and you cannot recline the seat. But still a pretty nice feature. Also, it's very airy in this Ioniq 5, not only because of the gigantic panoramic sunroof, but also the front windshield and the side windows, they're very big, so you have very good visibility all around. Out the back, so long as it's not raining. See, when it does rain, you can't turn on the rear wiper because it doesn't have one. The back window does get misted up just a little bit when you're driving, and it does obscure some of the vision, but I think if you add Rain-X to it, then that will make it a little bit better. However, it's just odd that Hyundai didn't include a rear wiper in the back. But anyway, back to the front, the styling is not that bad. You have 2 screens, one for your infotainment and one for the driver display. Climate controls and quick access buttons for the infotainment system are right underneath the infotainment screen. There is a physical volume knob, which is nice, as well as a physical toggle switch for tuning of the radio. But the climate controls are all capacitive touch buttons, which I'm not a big fan of. It would have been nice if they added at least a physical toggle switch for the climate, or I shouldn't say the climate, the temperature controls, and then just set the fan to auto. Also, for the heated and the ventilated seats, you have to press the warmer switch, which will then display the heated and ventilated controls in the infotainment system. Again, it would have been nice if it had some dedicated buttons for those features. One interior design feature that has me a little bit perplexed is the gear selector. It's protruding from the steering column and it kind of reminds me of a female's pleasure tool. You twist the top for drive or reverse and then you just gently push on the tip for park. Honestly, there's quite a bit of real estate right above the climate controls for P, R, and D, so I don't know why they decided to have this sort of gear selector. I mean, it's very sturdy, it's not going to go anywhere, but I don't know, maybe I just have a dirty mind. Anyway, apart from that, the rest of the cabin, like I said, very spacious. There's tons of space down here by my feet. This center console can slide forwards and backwards. There's a lot of space in this console between the seats for my McDonald's meals. Wireless phone charging pad is also down there. Cup holders for my Tim Hortons double coffee. And this armrest does have a little bit of space inside of it. So yeah, up here in the front, it's really nice. So let's go check out the back now. The theme of having a lot of space inside the cabin of the Ioniq 5 continues into the back. With this seat in my driving position, legroom is not an issue, headroom. My hair is brushing up against the headliner just a little bit, but then again, I do have spiky hair. Also, these seats, they do slide forwards and backwards, and they're split 60-40. And of course, they do recline as well. The outboards are heated. You have sunshades on the side windows, a couple of USB ports right here behind the center console, and your cup holders are right here. So overall, I like the interior of the Ioniq 5. Good job, Hyundai. In the trunk, the 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 has 770 liters of cargo space with the rear seats up and 1,680 liters with the seats folded. There is a bit of storage underneath the floor in the back, but if you open up the front clamshell, you will find a small compartment that can hold up to 24 liters of space. The 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 starts at $44,999 Canadian for the Essential trim. This particular demo vehicle is the preferred all-wheel drive long-range trim with the Ultimate package, and it has a price of $59,999 Canadian, or as a normal person would say, $60,000. Anyway, the Ioniq 5 is also eligible for government rebates, so check your local dealer for details. For all that money, the 2022 Ioniq 5 is equipped with the usual crop of features such as heated and ventilated front seats. These are also heated, and so is this. There's satellite navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration, though not wireless for either of them. Surround view cameras, Hyundai's excellent highway driving assist, which will now also perform lane changes on its own, just like GM's Super Cruise system, and a panoramic sunroof that unfortunately does not open. Some unique features though include a head-up display with augmented reality navigation directions. There are arrows that are superimposed onto the road surface when it comes time to make a turn. The leather upholstery is not leather and is instead leatherette that is made up from recycled materials. However, it still feels like genuine leather. The infotainment system is the same one that is used in other Hyundai vehicles, but it has a few unique pages for the Ioniq 5. These include charging and pre-departure schedules, battery range, and charging stations around the area. One interesting feature of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is the ability to power household appliances or provide a charge to another electric vehicle. Using the V2L function, it can be used to discharge the Ioniq 5's battery level to a certain point that is set in the infotainment system. So you can go camping and power electrical devices or power your home during a blackout. There is a plug at the bottom of the rear seats, or there's an adapter that you can purchase separately that can be used with the charging port. As for the outside, the 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 looks like a retro-futuristic hot hatch from the 1970s. Hyundai specifically says that it looks like a concept car from 1974. It looks like no other vehicle on the market today. There's a lot of emphasis on sharp lines and squares. The LED daytime running lights are square in their design, but if you look closely, the lights themselves have a square texture to them. The front also has a row of vertical LED lights that cross from one side of the car to the other. On the side, the door handles are flush with the body. The charge port is power operated, but don't worry if the battery is dead, because there is a physical tab that you can pull from the inside of the trunk to open the charge port. Around the back, the square theme continues with the taillights, which are themselves made up of square LEDs. The spoiler has two slats in it to allow for better aerodynamics. Also, don't let this design fool you. Though it may look like a hot hatch, it's actually pretty big. Here I am next to it and I'm 6'4". And finally, the warranty is 5 years or 100,000 kilometers for the new vehicle limited and 8 years or 160,000 kilometers for the battery components. Though in the United States, it's a little bit longer at 10 years or 100,000 miles for the battery components. So, is the Hyundai Ioniq 5 worth your consideration? It definitely is. This is now my new favorite electric vehicle that's on sale today. It's not the most engaging to drive around twists and turns, but do you know what? It's very comfortable. It's got tons of space on the inside, and it turns a lot of heads. I've noticed quite a few people looking at this either in confusion or amazement in how it looks. The only thing is, I probably wouldn't pick it in this matte gray. I'd rather have a different color. But that's just me. Anyway, if you want to know more about this 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5, I wrote a more detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner up here. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another SUV. Maybe one that'll look like a hot hatch, just like this one. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.